Today's podcast is all about accountability. And when most people hear this word, their bodies immediately tense up because they are full of blame, shame, and punishment. And they start to feel like they are being exposed for all of their shortcomings. But when it comes to healing, accountability is nothing like that. It is the real version that doesn't feel like finger pointing. It's actually cracking open all of the wounds, all of the things that you have ran from or tried to avoid for so many years. And you get to meet the parts of you that have never been met before. Accountability isn't about apologizing for everything that you did. It is about walking into the basement of your own behavior and facing the emotional architecture that actually shaped it. It's tracing your reactions back to their roots, and it's finally asking yourself where you learned the pattern, not to justify it, but to understand the story behind it. And this is going to help you deepen your own responsibility for how you actually carry yourself forward. A lot of people resist accountability because it threatens their worth, when really what it does is it will build more self-respect, and it teaches your nervous system that you can trust yourself with what is the truth over what you think the truth is. Your inner world is like a house. The upstairs living room is completely polished. That is the part of you that you present to the world. The calm parent, the competent partner, the reliable friend. But downstairs in the basement sits the younger version of you, the one who didn't get their needs met, the one who swallowed fear and pretended that it was strength, and the one who watched chaos and called it normal. And that's not the part of you that is actually broken. Nothing about you is broken. It is just simply frozen in time. So every defensive reaction, every shutdown, every moment of emotional withdrawal comes from that version of you. And without accountability, you keep the basement door locked. You blame circumstances, you blame the other person, you blame the timing, you blame anything and everybody else except for the truth and for the role that you played and the part that you have complete control over. Healing will ask you to unlock that door. And accountability is a moment you walk downstairs and you say, I see you, I know what you were surviving, and let's take this forward together. There were two major roles that really shaped and reinforced my healing and growth. And I'll talk about motherhood first. For me, motherhood shined a flashlight into every corner that I didn't face in myself, my own inner child wounds. I look at my children and I see the innocence that I once had, the softness that I was never allowed to keep, and I see the emotional attunement that they need, and I feel the ache of realizing I didn't receive it in the moments that mattered most to me when I was a child. So motherhood was my accountability mirror. I not only wanted to show up for my kids with emotional nourishment, presence, patience, and protection, but I knew that in order for me to be able to do that, I had to show up for the child inside of me who never got any of those things. You cannot give what you never learned to extend inward. You learn to respond to your kids with tenderness, and you start learning to respond to yourself with it too. You break generational patterns in real time. And that's how you repair wounds, by refusing to let them pass on. This is not about needing to be the perfect parent, but everything to do with showing that I am a work in progress through the process, but I'm going to show my children humility. I can do wrong too and apologize for it. And that I'm not going to let my inner child wounds run the show so that I then pass my own trauma down to them. And then there's another layer, which I think this is one of the most important parts of my life, is my relationship to my husband. It exposed the wounds I needed to take responsibility for, the ways that I would shut down and think that every single disagreement meant that I needed to leave because staying just wasn't safe for me. And that was the way that I would overprotect myself. And then when you actually couple that and combine it with his own wounds that he's trying to deal and heal from, it would just feel like we were on different emotional frequencies. But here is the thing that you should know, is that conflict makes you act the age that the injury happened, not the age that you are now. And I had to admit, my reactions to any sort of disagreement or any moment that I felt that I was threatened, my nervous system did its job. It kept me protected, and it would bring out the old versions of me. What kept me safe as a kid? Well, I'm going to continue to replay those things. And more, I realize that's just not going to work for me. It's not going to nourish me, nor is it going to nurture my relationship. So I started small, and I started with noticing and then pausing, basically telling myself and telling him, I feel triggered and I need some space right now because the last thing I want to do is hurt you. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. The thing about getting into a disagreement with your partner is that there are no binaries. There is no right or wrong or who's going to win. Because if you're trying to win every time, you're leading with your ego. You're leading from a place where your childhood wounds are just basically running the show for you. And there's no need to even create any sort of connection because all you care about is the coping mechanisms that did keep you safe at one point, but are not doing anything for you now as an adult. And as I took the responsibility and the accountability to heal, I realized that love doesn't have to come from destructive places and it doesn't need to hurt. And more importantly, I could teach my nervous system to stop reacting and teach it to chill the fuck out and be respectful and respond thoughtfully. That's the flavor of accountability that I love most. It's the kind that happens in small moments when the easy choice is defensiveness, but the deeper choice is vulnerability. Accountability didn't just help my marriage. It helped me meet myself where I needed most. It carved the emotional honesty that I didn't know how to face and I was constantly avoiding in my younger years. And this is emotional maturity in adulthood, right? It is nothing about the bills, responsibilities, but it is the one that says, I refuse to let my wounded self run my entire life while I pretended I was healing. And it was important for me because I wanted to create a life that not only looked great and successful on the outside, but it felt the exact same on the inside. No performative love. It's just no bullshit. This is just the way that it is, and I'm going to continue to heal and grow from it. When you face your patterns without turning them into your identity, accountability turns into compassion. And that compassion can also lead with curiosity to the point where you learn how to train your nervous system to unlearn all of the things that you once thought were the way to keep you safe as a kid, and you think it's going to work as an adult. But you realize that that's not how you want to live anymore. It is a cage. So you're no longer fighting your past when it comes to this. You're in fact integrating it. And you stop letting the child you once were run the adult relationships you're building today. The other thing that accountability will do is it brings out your inner leadership. It is asking yourself these questions. Where am I contributing to my own suffering? What childhood rule am I still living by? And how do my wounds show up in the relationships, friendships, and family connections, and even in my work? What version of me takes over when I feel unsafe? And finally, what am I avoiding that my children, without knowing it, are asking me to finally heal? These questions aren't comfortable, but they take you out of emotional autopilot and drop you into making conscious decisions. You're intentional. You know what you're headed towards. You know what you're becoming, and you're no longer going to depend on your past to continue shaping you, to continue defining the kind of life that you want to build. It will take courage, but it is the kind of growth where you aren't just becoming better, but you're peeling back the layers to becoming authentic to yourself and to the people in your life, which means when you no longer have to pretend, perform, or earn the connections and love in your life, you move from a place of transactional relationships and connections to now building relationships and connections that are sustainable. And unconditional love is absolutely possible. You're going to attract people who have the level of depth and capacity to hold you. And healing will ask you to stop abandoning the parts of you that need presence, honesty, and support. You not only can give it to yourself, but you are now clearing the emotional clutter to also give it to the people in your life and attract those who can give the same to you. Accountability adds recognition, integration, ownership, and liberation, and more importantly, peace. That's where you become the mother that you didn't have, the partner you want to be, and the version of you that you were always meant to grow into.